Welcome to Owen and Baru's Barbecue. Today we are serving up some Camino cafeteria trays with some green soup for some reason. And if you're wondering why, it's because we're talking about Bad Batch. Today, the other cafeteria partner that I have today with me is Nick. Thanks for joining me.
Hello. Hello there.
My name's Matt, and we're missing Chris. So,
it's a big surprise.
I think he was more surprised than we were, but perhaps he will return as we're going to cover more of the Bad Batch as it rolls out. And really, Nick and I were going to kind of give you kind of a little short taste of this because we don't have as much time to cover this today as we'd like to. This was the premiere episode was a full meal.
It was a big one. Yeah.
70, 75, 70 something.
I was expecting a half-hour episode, and I went, "Oh wow, 70 minutes, cool! I'll take it." You know.
my wife came in halfway while I'm watching it with the kids, and she's just watching it, and she's like, "How long is this?"
But for everyone out there, like Matt said, we're going to do a short episode because we have to get to RCAD here in a second. Matt had some technical issues. But we have another episode this coming Friday, so we'll try to make that next episode twice as long so we can cover all the Bad Batch goodness.
Yeah, for sure. We're going to dive into this show throughout the series, and I'm so excited that we not only do we get this episode, the Happy May the 4th be with you 4th, day. Which is still kind of weird to me because I know you and we've talked about this. Mm-hmm. We've never been a big happy 4th of the May.
Because it kind of started out like a joke. I remember a few years back, like when people started saying it, like, "Oh, May the 4th be with you." Like, funny, good pun, because it was always May 22nd. May 22nd was always Star Wars Day, or I think that's right. And yeah, then all of a sudden now, because of just how Star Wars has blown up from Disney, it's like, oh, we're going to turn this into a marketing thing. And like, it's just kind of taken off to where now May the 4th just dwarfs over May 22nd.
Totally. May 25th.
May 25th.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I don't want Ralph to email in.
Yeah, to kill us. Yeah, like, Nick, how did you not know the date?
But no, for real, for the longest time, even if you were just kind of a casual Star Wars fan back in the 80s, you were like, what is a Star Wars Day? And you went with the first original release date of A New Hope and George Lucas's birthday. I mean, that was kind of like the thing that kind of tied what I thought was Star Wars Day. Enough of that, though. Bad Batch. Yeah, what were your first reactions to this episode?
Well, I loved it. I even loved it from the very beginning. And the fact that, because there was a joke out there, like, Disney cancels Clone Wars. Was flown to give us Clone Wars 2. And I loved how it opened up with the Clone Wars credits, and you're like, oh, it's a red title. And then it just burns away. And you're like, it's so cool. Yeah. And I liked this episode a lot. There's a lot of things that I kind of had predicted. I think I wrote to you, like, I think this will happen. I think this will happen. And for the most part, it happened. It did. The only thing that really shocked me, which it shouldn't have shocked me, was the very beginning. Because I knew that there's going to be some kind of rescue. There had to be some kind of wedge or some kind of scene that showed them still having humanity towards the Jedi and towards the Republic. And you get it right from the beginning, because I was expecting it to be almost like a rescue of Baby Yoda / Grogu, something like that. Mm-hmm. But they went the opposite way. They went with the Rebels direction, which makes total sense. And I was so happy to see that, because like you see a young Kanan or Caleb, and his Jedi Master, and you see Order 66, and I almost was automatically thinking like, oh, am I going to have to watch this episode before I get to like the last few episodes of the Clone Wars, and like, cause like I want to always be chronological. And then I was like, Oh, okay, never mind. It answers it for you. Like right there. I'm like, okay,
right there. Yep. Yeah. And what a cool way to tie it into Rebels. And as casual, like, even if you're just like a casual Star Wars fan, you don't get the significance of this Padawan, but for those diehard, Star Wars fans, you're just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Now, as much as I was blown away and like as soon as I heard her name, Kanan's master,
Dipla.
I'm going to murder it after I said I heard it. I heard it, and I was just like, oh, I know who that is. It's that meme of
well, I always recognize those dots on her forehead, like on the nose.
Oh, yeah.
That's how I've always known her. It's like Depa Billababa. It's always one of those.
Bilba. I think
Bilba. Is it just Bilba?
Depa
Okay.
Bilba? Yeah. So yeah, like hearing that name and being like, oh, like, are we gonna get? And even my kids were like, oh no, I don't like they were like horrified that they were gonna have to witness Kanan going through, or Caleb going through this. My one criticism of it, just to kick the tires, is that I didn't really need Freddie Prinze Jr. reprising the role. I think it's sweet that they tried to do that, but his voice. Yeah. His voice seemed way up high.
He was trying to be a teenage voice instead of his regular voice. And I thought especially there's definitely a few times where he went into his regular voice that I could spot. But there were some times where it's like, oh, I see it's Freddie Prinze doing a kid voice. I mean, I could see that. I thought he did okay. He
did okay. It sound wise, it just felt like all of a sudden it was like in a different like when you're looking at a Photoshop piece and all of a sudden you're like, oh, there's some blurred edges here. It seems like this is higher up or this is on another level. So that was just me being a picky sound nerd guy. And but it's really happy to see Caleb. And this is definitely different, or a deviation from what happens in the comic books, which from up to this point, and that's pretty much how Star Wars does it to the comics. It's like, you can have these comic stories, but if we come along with something better, mind you, we're going to plow right over whatever you did.
Yeah.
So it still can connect, and it can still have some of that loose tie-in. I would say that I think the planet that they were on and just kind of how it went down was just slightly a little bit different from the comic. Definitely sets up what happens to him after. So if you're curious as to what happens to poor little Caleb as he runs off into the woods in this episode. Oh, can you not see me?
I can. You just froze. But I can hear you. Oh, there you go. Okay. You froze, okay. But your audio was fine.
My Nickernet is in full effect tonight. So it's, basically where it's creating a smaller, shorter episode for Owen and Bruce. So sadly, it's just a bite-sized meal. Other cool things and things that, I was expecting in, some of the rumor mills about who Omega was. Did that surprise you?
At first I was, even in the previews, I was already kind of against. I'm always the person that does not like new characters, because it's like, what are you trying to do with new characters? It's the same as like with Rebel season 1. You're kind of like, I don't know if I like this or not. And Omega, I felt was a little bit annoying. It's like, okay, who is this person? Like, I felt her face was a bit too animated compared to the other ones. It's really good, just animation, but I was just kind of like, okay. And then it wasn't until her importance was, shown later in the episode, we were kind of like, okay. And it makes sense why her name is Omega then. It's like, okay, I get it. We'll see where it goes. I assume that she's going to be like a super clone, some kind of person that has all of their traits, That
was my daughter's hypothesis, is like, oh, well, maybe she has all of their, and I was like, well, how is she going to have Wrecker's ability?
She's still a child.
I said I was imagining some She-Hulk moment.
She-Hulk, She's being all sweet. That's my turn to save you. I'm back.
It did definitely like cue you in though. Like when she took that shot on Crosshair, you're like, right. Oh, maybe she does have some of their traits. And
that's what I assume. Yeah.
A little bit of the fifth element happening there too, because she's the fifth clone.
Right, yeah. And it also makes you, because she's female, like who is the female clone donor? Like, who, like there's a lot of mystery there that can happen.
Well, so this was also something that my kids and I, we watch it together, and so we're always talking Star Wars and theories and stuff like that.
She could be
I was under the assumption that it was Jango Fett's,
and they just changed the chromosome.
Yeah, they just attached a chromosome, and
that makes sense too.
Or they did something genetically to like alter the chromosome to,
That'd be a lot, because she has blonde hair. Like there's a lot of alter, to it. But yeah, that makes sense. Well, we'll find out.
Now the big fan theory going into this was that this was an Emperor clone. That they were going to, because of the way the hair looks.
The hair, yeah, I could see that because it does have that same flip kind of in the back that he always has. Yeah.
So there was a lot of fan theories about that being an Emperor clone. Which I was digging that because I was like, oh, this could tie into Rise of Skywalker and set up some stuff that like it could at least explain some of the things that we were a little bit frustrated about. So, the cartoons always make the movies better. So it was one of those moments where I was like, oh, okay. And so I was fine with the reveal and I liked how it kind of tied back into the clone, and made her part of the Bad Batch. She's not just a, like an appendage or something like that. It's just like part of the main.
Well, yeah, I didn't want it to be, which I know they will to some extent. I didn't want it to be the Mandalorian, dose, because it's like, oh, you've got a crew now that needs to look after this little kid, and now that she does have some kind of enhancements, well, so does Baby Yoda. But it's like, what are we going to get out of this? I don't want them to overplay that card of like, here's the damsel in distress kind of thing. But even though, Baby Yoda's not a damsel in distress, but just the same thing, like the cub and the wolf or whatever.
Yeah.
Because we have limited time, I kind of want to get through this.
Sure. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, and then like we saw a lot of neat cameos in this episode. We get AZ, the medical droid that we also got from Clone Wars. We see Saw Gerrera. Then who else? We got Tarkin, of course.
Yep, Tarkin. It tied to a lot of different movies in that way. Tarkin's so A New Hope. Like Saw Gerrera. Rogue One. Like we get. EZ, which is definitely like, and I mean, so much of it ties to Clone Wars, but the fact that we get Caleb, Doom, we get Rebels, it's kind of across the board, like pulling in all of these threads.
That was the one thing with EZ I was a little disappointed in, because EZ was there with Fives. Like he knows, he knows about the chips, and this whole time when they were in denial and not knowing what was going on, I thought that was going to be the whole purpose of EZ being there. It's like, oh, like he'll tell them about Fives and he'll tell them about like what's happening with Crosshairs. It's like, oh, that makes total sense.
We are so limited on time, and this sucks because we haven't touched on Crosshair and the fact that he is set up to be the villain. I had heard rumors about like that one of them was going to like turn. From a story standpoint, it makes a lot of sense though.
It does. It makes total sense. Yeah.
Because I mean, you need a good villain. I mean, that's what makes the heroes great, and to have one of their own become the one that's hunting them.
Yeah, and he's the one that should do it. If it wasn't going to be him, it was going to be Hunter. I mean, one of the two. Like, and he is probably the second most powerful of the Bad Batch. I mean, they all have their specialties, but as in like, he is extremely deadly.
I also feel like Tarkin was kind of, like in that scene, Tarkin's kind of eyeing Crosshair too, like, oh, if we can take out one of the alphas, then we can tear this team apart or something. So it also makes sense. Some of the rumors of the fact that we're going to get possibly some more Anakin, the actor that played Anakin Skywalker in the Clone Wars, said that he would be reprising his role in Bad Batch.
Really?
So, yeah, I don't know if you'd heard that.
No.
So maybe we'll get some Anakin, and I don't know how that's going to work because
he's Vader at this point. So
you'd only get that in a flashback with like perhaps Rex or something like that. So yeah, I had seen that news too, and I was like, how are they going to rectify that? So,
but like I said, we've only got a few minutes.
Yeah, go.
The last thing, I mean, if you want to kind of nip it in the bud. So basically, Crosshairs is going to be Crosshair is the enemy now, guys. And it's been a great episode of just they rescued the girl, and so that now there's a split between Bad Batch, who is unsure of what their future is, but they're going to go off to what they say is J19, which is I never say this planet right, Salu Campi. Like Sail, Cammy. I never say it right. But we've only seen this planet once in Clone Wars before, because like you naturally assume it's going to be Rex, like, oh, because that would be the more naturally, but they don't know as a clone trooper unit if Rex has been affected by Order 66. So that doesn't make sense to go there, to just go seek out Rex. The only other person that we've seen was in the episode Deserter, and I think it's in season 2 of the Clone Wars, where they find another clone trooper who is left and has children. And that is the only person we know that's on that planet, according to at least the Clone Wars era.
Nice.
So
nice little...
I don't know if that'll happen or not, but that makes the most sense to me.
Oh, well, I mean, I like all of the characters that they're bringing in so far. Why wouldn't they? I mean, they're really painting a large, scale scope of all of these. And we haven't gotten Fennec yet. That's been obviously teased in the trailer, and so Rex. So we're going to come back. We're going to definitely talk about like the second episode, and hopefully by that point, my internet will be a little bit better, and Nick and I can dive a little bit deeper into both those episodes. Perhaps Chris will be along for that journey as well. So we're going to have to cut this short, though, so that Nick and I can jump over to the RCAD. If you haven't checked out Ramblecast After Dark, it is an explicit podcast where we basically talk about just about everything. And a lot of times Star Wars comes up to Jack's chagrin. If you like what we do here, rate and review us on iTunes. We'd appreciate that. Send us feedback at theforceiswelldone@gmail.com. That's all spelled out. theforceiswelldone@gmail.com. Become a patron member by going over to the jandjack.com website. Click on the patron link. You can also shop our merch. We have some merchandise for Owen and Baruz. And right now, I'd like to thank some special patrons that make this show possible. And they are Bad Batch theme. Of course, we have the Tack Batch, Echo Eckhart. It's so obvious. It's right there.
It is.
As well as Wrecker Richter. I mean, it's just like so obvious, right? And this one's more of a reach, but we got Crosshair Ed, Omega Maggie. Love how that flows. Joanne the Hunter. She's hunting with that knife. And right. I couldn't resist, but Caleb Gregg. No, it doesn't flow like Caleb Doom, but Caleb Gregg. I know that you like Rebels as much as we do. Thanks for doing what you do. Thanks for making this show possible. This was a short one, so I guess we could call this 1 in a million.
Yeah, maybe.
1 in 15 minutes.
I don't know if it's even 15. All right, y'all be good.